as I was telling you, as you look at this painting, beware it's going to be very graphic. So if you don't want to look at it anymore, be ready to shut it off, because some people cannot take the looks of it. And I went. Sometimes I think I went a little bit too far, and sometimes I think I didn't, according to the way he was. The skin was plucked from his skin with those whips and the glass and nails and ivory, all kinds of things that were connected to those end of end of the whip. There was not just one strike, and had a lot of added branches to the whip. So when it had many places, in many ways. I just plucked the skin off this thing, and therefore you'll be seeing what I'm talking about. I don't want to show too much, but here it's getting to be a little bloody there. As you go down, you see that it was all over his body, and as you start noticing it, this is just before he died, before he put his head down, and he was saying something like, "I did this for you." And before he died, just as he died, there was an eclipse that happened too. There was an earthquake, and I didn't quite believe not that I didn't believe, but I wanted to do more convincing to myself, because as if there was an earthquake. So what I did, or an eclipse, they don't talk much about the eclipse. They say the sky went dark. So I looked up back 2,000 years ago and found out that that day when he was being crucified, there was an eclipse, and that's why the sun was down. I mean, the sun did not show, there was no light, and then there was an earthquake, and that's all recorded back to. So if you look up all the eclipse and earthquake that's been going on, look up at the internet, and this was when I was really convinced that, and just before I did that, just before I painted this here, I looked up the rest of the paint, the rest of the idea, to make sure that was accurate. And I went through the research, and I figured it out, because as an artist, you know the anatomy. I studied his painting from the skeleton up, and this way it was more accurate. This way, the nail will go through the top of the foot. Right on top of the foot, there's a hole that the nails can go through without breaking their bones. And that big spike went right through into the other side, and in the same position of the foot, where there was only one spike was used to hold them both together. Now, as you can see, I will just focus more on it, and this way you get the idea that if to paint this kind of things like this here, the idea of painting something so graphic, it's not easy. It's just, it breaks your heart, and it just, you have to stop. I stopped painting this painting many times, and only when I get myself composed together, then I will come back a week later, and I'll paint a little bit more. Because once you get into it deeper and deeper into the thoughts, and the way the blood must have floated or fallen out, you will go into, like I said, and I just have to stop. You have to have a stomach, and for this thing you have to have, you got to be hard and cold about it, so you know to paint. But if you're painting and you're a painter, you got to feel the brush. You got to make the blood, the red paint look like blood. And as you imagine doing this here, you get emotional, of course. And that's the same thing with a lot of great artists. So, like I said before, I try not to copy other artists. Other artists they have two nails on one on each foot, and other artists don't even show where the foot, the nails too far on the bottom, where will break bones. Like I said over here, if you examine the top of your foot, you'll see that if you put your thumb through it, you'll feel there's a hole there. Well, the bones from there comes together, and same thing with the hand. That's right. So, according to the Bible, the eclipse just has happened. You notice almost 90% there, about 98% of the sun being covered. That's a few seconds later he died, and I made him with the hand pointing towards the person on the left, and imagine him saying, "You were with me in paradise," and pointing the way. Or imagine him saying, "I did this for you," and I named this painting, the title is called "For You." If you can notice here, that hand really has the nail is right on the hand, that where the hand ends on, behind the wrist, at the wrist. There's also a hole on top of your hand. If you feel your hand, there's a hole, not a hole, but a hole inside. If you was to push your finger hard against that, where the wrist meet and the bones from the hand meet, in the middle there's a hole there that you can put a nail without breaking your bones. And that's the way it goes. You cannot hang that weight on the middle of your hand. Just like a deer, you go to a tendon when you hang a deer, and that'll hold all the weight. And this is what happened to him. There's a lot of study. I did this, and according to other artists, they did not do this here. They did not do, not all of them though. Some of them were more accurate than others, but the pressure of the under the arm, how it pulls the body, that also hurts a lot. And like when he died, he was crucified, but he died because the blood was going into his lungs and the water was going into his lung, because he was being, you diaphragm cannot lift your body up again when you're so weak, being there for so long. It cannot breathe, and therefore that's why he had blood. And his lung, when he died, his lung was full of blood and water, and that's why when the God put the spears through his ribs, water and blood came out, and that's because he died of suffocation. That's what I concluded in my studies, and that's why I say that this painting has been shown, but I've not shown this painting for 35 years. In 35 years, when I finish it, and I've changed the face 3 times. So what I'll be doing is showing different pictures of different times that I changed his face, and also some sketches I've done for the study. So bear with me, because one thing is that as soon as I finished this painting, that new book came out, the Shroud of Turin, and that painting confirmed to what I was saying. I was happy to read it, and I was not afraid to put more blood on him. Later on, this happened. This is 5 years ago, and another blood was another 10 years ago. And when I first finished him, that I thought I was finished with him, it was 35 years ago. He had a few whips around his body, but he wasn't as red and as much blood pouring out of him. So you'll see the changes. I will show you another.